Hi, my name is Darren Hill. I am in Bryan, Texas, and I am here to introduce you to the intricacies of the Langstroth Beehive. Mr. Langstroth, back in the 1880s, had a bee business, and he noticed that all the little walls of wax, the little combs that they had, there was always about 5/8 of an inch between those combs. So he kind of figured out that if he put little frames in there, the bees would kind of fill in those frames, and he spaced it so that in his boxes there was always 5/8 of an inch around everything. That gave them a pathway to follow. If you put more than 5/8 of an inch, they fill that space up with wax, and we call that burr comb. So we don't like burr comb. Basically, they'll take a frame, and they say there's some frames missing. They'll fill that up with wax, and suddenly you can't pull this thing out without tearing out your honey here, because it's glued to this ball of wax which is attached to the side of the hive. Or if, say, you have a completely empty box, you can't just throw a big wad of bees in there and tell them to start making a hive, because state and federal regulations say that you have to have a hive that has removable frames so that you can inspect it. Bees are such a big part of the agricultural industry that they really have to be inspected in case of diseases. You might say, well, my one hive has a disease, big deal, who cares? I know people with 80,000 beehives, and they're scattered all over the country, and one of their bee yards gets a disease in it, or a insect that'll kill the larvae of a bee. Suddenly you're missing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bees, and that's a bad thing. So that's why you have to have frames, no matter whether you're doing a Langstroth hive or a small bar hive or something else, or ware hive or something. There's reasons for that. So let's get into the intricacies of why this works this way. Okay. This is a standard 10-frame Langstroth Beehive. Okay? This is the top. We're going to start from the top, work our way down to the bottom. This is called a telescoping cover. Now, basically, we don't use them in Texas, but I have them. Okay. They are made for insulation of the top of the hive, and they are here to kind of keep all the heat inside. And in Texas, we kind of want to have more of an air-conditioned hive than a heat hive. Up north, you have 15 feet of snow above your hive. You're going to need this for the insulation, and usually you're wrapping your hive hay and stuff like that so that you can keep it warm throughout the winter. But the weird part about it is a cluster of bees will sit there and vibrate, and even though it's 20 degrees below zero inside this hive, they are vibrating so much that they are producing warmth, and it's always pretty much a constant 92 degrees in here. Cool thing, cool side note, if a wasp gets in here, which is a predator, and they eat bees, they will gather in a ball around that wasp, and they will vibrate, and they will literally cook it to death. Kind of cool. But, so this is the top of a hive. It is metal. It has sides. We don't like them because, two reasons. When it gets a little warmer, the wax that the bees always have will melt, and they'll also glue it together. But it's almost impossible to get a pry bar under here to pull this off. So you've got it stuck down. You can't get it off, and if you pull a pry bar out, you're basically ripping the thing apart. Another reason is this little thing sometimes gets glued up inside here, and you can't get it out. So that's why I don't use them much. But you can if you want to. What we use in Texas mostly are called migratory covers. Okay. And they don't have any sides, but you can stick a pry bar right here, and you can just pop it off, and you're good to go. That's why we use those. They're easier, they're convenient. They don't do much insulation, but in the event of you needing to have a better seal, and it's coming down about to 20 degrees below zero in Texas, which I'd like to know where that is because I'd like to move there, then you might want to get one of these. This is called an inner cover. Some of them have little entrances and stuff, but basically they make an airspace between your telescoping cover and here, and Some people say because they're here, it's easier to pull off with the pry bar. That's why I don't care. I just use the standard migratory cover. But there's a little airspace in here, but most beekeepers in Texas don't use these either. But if you get a kit from Data, which is where I usually send everybody to, they usually come with a kit with inner covers and telescopic covers. But this is a big proponent of why I tell people everybody should just build their own. Now, this is a standard 10-frame Langstroth configuration. Each frame has wax foundation, and it's kind of a guide to tell the bees how to build out their wax. But we have several supers on here because when I feed my bees in the winter, usually they're up here filling the hive that's right above the brood chamber. So this box will get full of sugar water and honey and stuff, and it's kind of random. And I usually mark it with something, but I will keep this hive in the spring when they start to put nectar in here and building out their honey supply. They will fill this one up first, but remember it's kind of a mix of sugar water and stuff, and they really can't sell it as honey. I'll take it off and I'll stick it on top, and it will draw the bees up a little bit, and they'll say, oh, there's now an empty super here, and they will start to fill this up with wax and comb. Okay, and then it will keep going up, and we'll basically take the bottom off and stick it. But I know that one of them is marked, and it says this is the one that we're going to put back on the bottom of the stack in the wintertime, because that's got sugar and food in it, and it's going to be able to keep, this one box is going to be able to keep this hive full of energy and food. And so we always want to leave them with at least one super. These 2 supers I'm going to take, or maybe 3 or 4, these are the ones I'm going to harvest from, but we always want to leave them a box in the wintertime full of sugar water. Otherwise, you're going to be doing what I did one year and feeding them about, I was going through about 100 pounds of sugar a week for about a year and a half. So, and basically have to boil it on your stove or something. And it's not fun, especially when you have kids. Okay, this is wax. This is wax foundation. Now, wax is considered to be gold in the beekeeping world because let's pretend that this is 1 jar of honey. It takes 9 jars of honey to make 1 jar of wax. So the first thing a beehive is going to do is when they take over a box, they will start to fill out those frames that you give them with the foundation on it, and they will make their comb. So they'll take this and push it out to that. Okay? This is all stored up for the winter. We're about to start putting it out for the spring. And they will fill all this out with comb. But a big, huge percentage of their harvest is going to go just to make this. And the good thing is every year you can take it apart and store it in your garage, and you can keep it over winter, and then in the spring you take it out and they fill it up again, and they don't have to use wax they don't have to make wax to fill out the frame. Now in my second video we're about to go, because we're about to shut this off, just to make sure I don't crash the iPad, I'm going to explain to you why the configuration of the honey is important, and how we talked about that in the super bottle, or the deep bottle. So thank you for watching. We're going to go to the next video. So bye.